What's up, everybody? Happy Election Day. We made it. Finally. Didn't think we'd ever get here. 4 years of relentless back and forth. So hopefully it'll be decided tonight. Glad to hear everybody or see everybody that will be tuning in with us this morning. Just want to get that out of the way. Go vote if you haven't voted yet. Make sure you go exercise your right. It's one of the best rights we have here in this country is to be able to go out as an American citizen and go vote and make our decision on who we want to be the next president. Hey, look, there's also something else going to be released tonight. The first college football playoff rankings. Okay, so historic. Okay, guess who won't be part of it? Auburn. Auburn won't be part of it. I think all of you figured that out. So that kind of leads us to where we are. And again, we'll take your comments. We'd love to hear from you throughout the show. Randy, you got any quick thoughts on the election real quick before we dive into this other stuff?
No, I mean, I'm in my color today.
Yep.
You can rest assured where I can't get to the poll quick enough to cast my ballot for Mr. Donald J. Trump. So
right.
I'm wearing it proud, and
I've got my Make America Great Again hat right over here, but I just decided I wouldn't throw it in everybody's face this morning. So,
well, you're a nice guy, but it's election day, and you can either stand up and voice it proudly or never do it. And last night I've been watching the end of it this morning as I got started at work. Elon Musk on with Joe Rogan. Musk, of course, has been on Trump's side, but Rogan endorses him last night. I probably watched as many hours of Joe Rogan as anybody else out there, and you could kind of see that he was thinking about going that way, but I think Elon last night making the final pitch from that standpoint really talked him into it, and so you see his endorsement come through. And look, you got to speak up. You know, I don't necessarily throw it in everybody's face from a social media standpoint, because for one thing, I've learned over the years, I tell my brother this, who loves to post and repost, and he's constantly badgering social media with that. I said, man, do you know how many people you're persuading to go in your direction?
Nobody.
Absolutely,
Nobody.
Positively zero. So, I mean, if you're undecided at this point, you haven't been paying attention to the news for the last couple of years. So, I've been decided a long time, and I'm going to go in there with a big smile on my face and cast a ballot.
Let me say this. Joe Rogan endorsed Trump because he really respects Elon Musk, like a lot of people. I thought the podcast was great. I mean, that guy's on a different planet, literally, than the rest of us. And let me say one other thing. Trump's last rally went into the wee hours of this morning. I stayed up and watched it. Hey, look, I mean, that man's 78 years old, dude. I mean, so mad respect. So anybody out there that says that guy's failing mentally and physically, that's just, you look stupid when you say stuff like that with a guy that has the stamina of him. I don't know how he does it, but we'll get off that because we got a lot of other stuff to talk about today, namely how pitiful. We'll just keep this going. I mean, we're in football season. I'm not running from it. We got to endure the last 4 weeks of the regular season. We got this week off, thank God. I do appreciate that a little bit. I don't have to worry about coming on live Saturday and talking about another loss. But I wanted to talk about why Auburn can't get it right. I mean, I really want to dig into this. I want to look at I gave a stat to everybody yesterday. It's the first time since 1927 that Auburn will have 4 consecutive seasons of 5 SEC losses or more. I mean, it's been 100 years, basically. I mean, Auburn football, Randy, has its up and downs, but it's a perennial top 15 program. It's built its way to that. You know, in the 80s and 90s when we grew up, we were as good as anybody in this conference. And, you know, we had our shares of a couple of years here and there that weren't good, but so did Alabama, so did Florida, so did Tennessee. You know, I can go down the list of the original guard in the SEC. Everybody had their ups and downs, but man, you never went into a football game thinking that you were going to lose. I mean, we didn't. We didn't grow up that way, man. We grew up. I had a conversation with a girl yesterday down in Auburn, somebody that's probably going to be joining us as an intern in the spring. She's from Texas, and her dad's an avid Texas A&M fan. She decided to come to Auburn because she just wanted to get away from Texas A&M. Loves it in Auburn, but their mentality is so much different. And I told her, I said, you don't know what it's like to grow up where Auburn dominated, where Auburn was always a game or a team that expected to win. Now we roll into the stadium and go, well, probably not going to win this week. And I just that's the thing that's the most disheartening for me right now as an Auburn fan, coming from the generations that you and I come from, is that we don't have any confidence in our program right now.
Well, I don't, and I don't have any answers for it either. And, there's different regimes that come through, and people like us that are talking heads like different coaches for different reasons. You really thought a lot of Coach Tuberville because you worked for him. And he did have a nice little stretch there in the early part of the 2000s into the middle part of 2000s where we were a good enough football team to expect to go into the next season and be competitive on an SEC basis. But that's where I was wanting to take it this morning, is just take a look back at all the coaches we've had. Have we ever had a stretch where we consistently have been what you and I grew up with in the 80s? And my answer is yes, but they've been very small stretches.
Right.
We haven't been a championship contender outside of a few years here and there consistently any more than we were in the 80s. You go back to Shug Jordan in the mid-50s and the 57 championship, and then taking it into 58. And then by the early 60s, though, Alabama had overcome with Bear Bryant, and we had started down that path, and we won a few in the 60s. But then we make it into the late 60s and 70s, and we lose, 11 in a row? 10 or 11 in a row. It was way too many. And Pat Dye comes in, and from 81 to 92, wins 95 football games. Had a 70% winning percentage. And that was the era where you didn't play 14 games a year either, Brett. So,
exactly.
you add 2 or 3 wins per season to those 11. You probably in today's age, for those that didn't pay attention to the 80s, instead of 95 wins, playing as many games as we play right now with those teams that we had then, he would have had 130 wins. Just that much of a different era. 11 games per season was a big number back then. That means you played in a bowl game, and that was before the SEC championship game. So much different time. Terry Bowden lost it. Terry Bowden had it for a couple of years, playing off of the strength of some of those teams that Pat Dye left him. But by the end of his tenure, I don't think any of us wanted him hanging around. 98 was as bad as this year. And when you have years like this year, you only point to a few of them in my lifetime. 98, 2012, and now this one. 2008 wasn't far removed from it because we got ran out of the gym a lot that year too, with that Tony Franklin-led offense and Tuberville exiting stage left. But this year's is bad. It's in the top 3 in my lifetime of terrible seasons. And it's not year 1 for Hugh Freeze. This is year 2. So I'm really sick of all the excuses. And maybe I'll kick it back to you. There's a certain point where you go, I'll keep buying into a rebuild. But when does the line get drawn in the sand that we've got to show some progression and play on the field has to change?
I think going back and looking at records is fine. This is a chronic problem, and when you look up the definition of chronic, means it's ongoing. It's not something that just pops up like the annual flu or strep throat. I mean, this is a chronic problem at Auburn over multiple coaches, which leads me to believe that this isn't about really a football coach. It's about expectations. It's about what guys are doing. And look, I'm going to say it. I don't care this morning. I don't. So if it gets out and it goes viral, I hope it does. But if Hugh Freeze is out not doing what he's supposed to be doing, then somebody needs to call his butt out about that. If he's on the golf course playing golf 2, 3, 4 times a week like we're hearing, Okay, I'm not gonna throw names out there because I'm not putting people's names out there. But apparently you don't care if you go to a golf course and you have a pretty much a standing tee time, and people can see you playing golf. As Justin says, Moore's Mill is already all over the message boards. Look, it's not a secret. You're not trying to hide it. You've won 3 football games this year. So I can go back and we can break down why Gene Chizik failed. We can break down why Tommy Tuberville let it get away at the end. And we can break down why Gus Malzahn couldn't ever get it to where we wanted it to go. And then we can definitely dive into the disaster of Brian Harsin. But it's an administration problem. You and I have been talking about this forever. And it's expectations. Randy, you're a boss, but you worked for somebody at one point in time. So did I. And I had expectations when I was hired to do a job. And if I didn't do the job, I was shown the door. And I didn't make $6-7 million a year. And I had somebody text me yesterday that said it's complete and total disrespect by Hugh Freeze to sit up there and say the stuff he says on press conferences after games, knowing he can't wait to get out of there to get to the golf course. And I mean, is that what he did? Did we get suckered again? Did we get taken to the bank one more time again by a guy that says, look, y'all've given me the keys. You got to deal with me now. Now, again, I give credit, you give credit where credit's due on the recruiting. Think he's doing a hell of a job there. But the on-field coaching sucks, man. There ain't any other way to spin it. I heard what Cole Kublik said yesterday about this team doesn't know how to win. This team doesn't know how to be good at football. Well, whose fault is that? I mean, these are good football players. This is not a 2012 roster, Randy. This is not an 08 roster. This is a pretty good roster. And on the defensive side of the football, he's not going to get the credit he deserves, but DJ Durkin has done a hell of a job this year on defense. He has coached his rear end off, and our guys on defense have gotten better. Jay Crawford has emerged as one of the top corners in the country. Keldrick Falk took that next step as that dominant defensive lineman. We've seen Malik Blockton play well. We've seen Dorian Mausi play great. We've seen DeMarcus Riddick get a lot better, a lot more playing time. Exactly who we thought DeMarcus Riddick, a 5-star coming out of high school, could be. But on the offensive side, I don't have any answers. That's when it becomes the biggest mystery of all. No, Cam Coleman, no factor. Malcolm Simmons, a very small factor. Jarquez Hunter, best running back in the league. I don't know why he didn't touch the ball from time to time. Everything points back to Hugh Freeze, but it points back to the administration for not walking. And I don't know, they may have walked in his office and said, what the hell are you doing going to tee off on Sunday when we just got beat by Vanderbilt and we've won 3 football games? That's where I am with it.
Like I said yesterday, I don't know the exacts on that, so I don't want to jump in with it, but perception is perception. If I leave, let's say this business I run that we're
well, somebody call us out if it's not right. If somebody knows if that's not going on, then say it. But right now, it's all over every message board. It's all over every topic, every chat group. Everybody's talking about Hugh Freeze out playing golf multiple times a week with a crappy football team. So somebody call us out. We're not saying it that we've seen it with our eyes, but it's everywhere. So somebody just call us out if it's wrong. Sorry.
Well, my point is if I come in here this morning on a Tuesday and I complain to all of my staff here that things aren't going the way that I want them to go, but then I go and leave at lunch 2 or 3 times a week and leave them down here to do all the work, and I'm not involved in the daily grind, and I'm at the golf course for 3 or 4 hours every afternoon. What is perception? What would the perception of these guys behind me or the people that work with me? The perception is that that's more important to me than trying to grind out another 3 or 4 hours to figure out why in the world we can't put a winning product out there on the football field. I hate it, but it's reality. And sometimes the way that people do perceive things is unfortunate because you do need a release but you got to know that. And you said it yesterday, and I'll piggyback off of you. I've been around a lot of football coaches in my life. I've had the good fortune of being around some of the very best that this state's ever produced. It's coached by one of the best that this state's ever produced. And during football season, that's what that man did. He lived it. And his staff had to decide if they were going to live it or they weren't going to coach with him, Brett. I don't think he would mind us saying, because I do think he's the very best high school football coach this state's ever generated. But Danny Horn, if you are a part of his staff, you work an immense amount of hours. Now, at the end of the year, when you look back on it, what do you think those coaches think about him? Have you ever heard a coach that coached with him that didn't like him, Brett?
No,
that you thought was a great coach.
No, I did not.
I've met, if the ones I did ever hear complain are lazy, and they've always been lazy, and they're going to continue to be lazy, because that man's going to work as hard as anybody possibly can. He's got a process that he's got in place, and he's going to do it. And the reason that I point to him is because he's the best this state's ever produced. So we expect, as Auburn fans, to go out there and hire somebody that's got that type of work ethic. And it bothers them more that we lose than it does me and you that aren't getting paid a single penny.
How do you not have that work? How do you not have that work ethic as an SEC football coach? I don't even get it. Now, you know what starts dissension in your team? It's when you start doing what you said. You start going out and holding everybody. Hey, I don't know why we're bad. Y'all better get your butt to work. You better get in there and do this. And then you walk out the back door and you're gone the rest of the day. I mean, you don't have respect for somebody like that. You know why they respect Danny Horn, or they respect any good football coach? Because he's in the trench with them. He's not telling them. You know why everybody that played with Michael Jordan respected him? They may not have liked him, but you know why they respected him? Because they lined up and got their ring every year after the season was over when they played with him. And he did not ask his teammates to do anything he wasn't willing to do.
Nick Saban, Brett.
He wasn't a hypocrite. He wasn't a hypocrite.
Saban, I mean, he committed his life while he was coaching the coaching. I mean, I don't think any of us doubted that. I'm an Auburn fan. I don't like sitting up here and constantly, pointing to Nick Saban as the poster child of what you want to do as a coach. But my gosh, I can respect greatness when I see it. And we saw it with him. Kobe Bryant, look the way that players that played with Kobe Bryant talk about him, Brett. Allen Iverson, I watched an interview with him this past week, and he said, I was out at the club, and I may miss some of the practices because of the way I came in the next morning. He said, while I was in the club, Kobe Bryant was practicing. That's what a kind of machine that guy was.
Right.
So as a coach, as a leader, especially in a program that you're trying to build, back from wherever the heck we are, the doldrums that we currently reside in as Auburn fans, you got to really put a ton of effort forward. Maybe he is. I'm not here just to bash, but there's enough questionable stuff going on, and enough of a buzz and enough of a smoke in the background to think that there are some.
I'm here to bash if what we're hearing is true. I'm here to bash. I'm absolutely here to bash, because that ain't what we want, and that's not what we accept here. And again, I can't go down and make the decisions for people. I can't run that program. I'm not hired to do that. But somewhere along the line, and Craig said the problem is they know they're going to get paid whether they win or not. And I do think that's a massive deal with a guy that doesn't have the inner fortitude to challenge himself, to push himself to be the best he possibly can. Okay? If signing the contract is your victory, if signing the contract to get paid however much you get paid if you get fired is your victory, then we have the wrong guy. We had the wrong guy. Well, Justin just talked about Jimbo Fisher. He said not many complained about Saban. One of the ones that did was Jimbo, and we know how he turned out. He left a trail of crap from Tallahassee all the way over to College Station until he left. That guy was a fraud from day one. He sold his soul to the devil with Jameis Winston to win a national championship. And after that, the devil came back and he called his price in on Jimbo Fisher, and his career went right down the tubes. And that's the kind of person.
$75 million later, though. You made a good point with that. Once you sign that once you get that $75 million payday, that there's no way to take it back from him, then he's won. It depends on what you expect you won is. And I hope this thing gets turned. I hope that we're not seeing the start of another very poor
Do we
regime.
know right now, sitting here today, that it's inevitable that he ain't going to make it? I mean, let's just go ahead and say it. Next year, do you expect Auburn to turn around miraculously from what you're seeing on the field? The on-the-field product's what's terrible. It's not the recruiting. Look, I think the recruiting class is going to stay together. I do. I think they're going to bring them in. I think we're going to continue. I think we're going to keep a majority of the guys on the team. You're going to lose a few. I mean, that's going to happen every year anyway. Even Alabama last year lost. They went to the semifinals and hell, they lost several. They lost one of the best players on their football team. He went to Ohio State and Caleb Downs. Look, you're going to lose guys. That's going to happen.
Yeah.
So quit worrying about that. If they don't want to be here and they don't want to be part of your program, I don't give a damn if they're 5-star or not. Let them go. I don't want you around my program if you're going to be the one in the building always going, I don't get this and blah, blah, blah. Just get gone. You're way more of a detriment than you are an asset at that point. So get people in there with a positive, but the leader of the program's got to walk the walk. And if Hugh Freeze is not walking the walk, then we're going to be right back in the same situation that we're all in. Look, we all screamed it. Cam Ward could have fixed this problem for Auburn. He made that decision. Somewhere in his mind, he thought Peyton Thorne was going to be the guy to help after he went out and got the best wide receiving recruiting class in school history. And he said, I'm going to gamble with this quarterback here. And he could have gone and gotten a proven winner, somebody that had as good, if not better, numbers than Shedeur Sanders that we talked about, if Auburn would have hired Deion and he'd have brought him with him, along with Travis Hunter and everybody else that he would have brought with him. But just forget that. All we had to do was go get the best QB out in the portal. And that was Cam Ward. And look where he's got Miami. Look where they will end up tonight in the first playoff rankings. Okay? They're probably going to go undefeated this year. Really good chance. And it's not because of anything but him. They're still putrid on defense. They remind me so much of the 2010 Auburn team, where you got somebody that's so daggum good at quarterback, they can just take the game over themselves and figure out a way to win it at the end. We all know sitting here right now, Auburn would be a minimum of 7-1. 7-1 with Cam Ward at quarterback. And we'd probably be getting talked about in the first playoff rankings tonight. Can you just imagine what the difference in this show today would be if we were talking about Auburn being 7-1 with Cam Ward leading the Heisman up there with, Travis Hunter and the kid from Boise State, Genty? I mean, do you think all the positive press we'd be getting right now and how smart Hugh Freeze would look that he went out and got that guy in the temp, and now we got Deuce Knight coming in behind him next year, as one of the best quarterbacks? I mean, the positivity would be out of the roof. Instead, we're talking about this.
Well, your question in closing today is, why can't Auburn football get it right? And, my answer to you on why Auburn football can't get it right is because we can't get the quarterback position right. And until we get the quarterback position right, we're going to constantly be sitting here having this talk. Now, the NFL is the exact same. There are a lot of other programs that must have that quarterback position right. But I think Auburn, maybe more than anyone else in the SEC, based off of who our two key rivals are, have to get that position right. And we haven't been able to do it, not consistently. We've missed on so many high school recruits. We've missed on so many transfers to come in that we're going to change the dynamic of the team, and it just hasn't worked out. So until we figure out how to do that, and look, we're committed to signing coaches, Brett, or hiring coaches that are offensive-minded guys to hopefully fix that, and it's not working. So my answer to your question there, why can't Auburn football get it right, is because we struggle every year finding a quarterback that can take us to the next level. When we've had that person in place, we've been pretty darn good. But unfortunately, over the last 20 years, how many times have we had that person in place? Answer me that, Brett. How many times
Like
have we had the right quarterback?
maybe three.
Maybe so. Yeah, I agree.
Cam
Brandon
Newton,
Cox.
Brandon Cox, Nick Marshall, and Jarrett Stidham.
And Jarrett Stidham 1 year.
Yep.
1 year now. It took
he lost his All-American running back behind him.
Which tells me you can be – now you got to be above average, but if you have an All-American back there and you lean on him like Gus Malzahn did, then you can overcome that. But that's way too many years where you go, we were mediocre at quarterback. And I don't have the answer on how to fix that. We clearly can't develop one. No matter who the coach is, we clearly at Auburn can't develop a quarterback. Who is the last quarterback Auburn developed? If you want an answer to that question you've got there. Who is the last high school quarterback that Auburn signed and turned into a great player? Brandon Cox?
It'd have to be him from Hewitt-Trussville.
Nobody else.
Look,
Cam
Newton, we did slide. I know he didn't finish his career here, but Bo Nix turned out to be a phenomenal quarterback. But he was a freshman All-American. He had a good freshman season, but he didn't develop at Auburn.
Which is one of the biggest Auburn nightmares of all time.
Right. And it was Brian
Larson. Pat Nix's son has to leave Auburn and become a Heisman Trophy contender after
that sums it
yes.
up. All right, some other comments. Kyle said if the golf course thing is true, then that makes his stressful 4 hours getting a game plan together even more stupid. What he says, even more stupid. Justin said, you may have to go get 2 quarterbacks in the portal, honestly. You're probably right. Again, let me add to that quote from, we don't want to get a quarterback this year out of the portal. We don't want to pay that much money, but we're going to pay for one next year. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. What's more important than the present? Is there anything more important than the present than now? Okay. All right. Justin said you can say in your opening presser, or you can't say in your opening presser, that I'm somewhat of a QB guru and I'm known for changing programs around fast and do the exact opposite. He ain't shown that at all. So I'm going to say this to end this show. If he is out doing what's being rumored, then he needs to come out and address it, because we're talking about it this morning on this show. They're talking about it in the message boards. We're being told that people have seen him on a regular basis playing golf and do it. And look, it's a free world. Man can go play every day if he wants to. But it is not acceptable to be a derelict of duties in your job when you get paid the amount of money he gets paid and you are out gallivanting around like you're some retiree hanging out on the beach. Pretty simple. So, Hugh Freeze, if this gets back to you, buddy, all I can tell you is, if it is not true, squash it, man, because it's a bad look, dude. It is a bad look. And if he doesn't say anything about it and people keep doing it, then it means it probably is true. And then if that is the case, then everybody should have the right to say what they want to say about the results on the field. Because you know what? That means he don't give a damn that you go sit down there every Saturday and you buy season tickets and you give the Tigers Unlimited and you do all the stuff that you do, all you fans out there, to go and show up every Saturday and support and understand the assignment that I sit in section 46 and I need to wear blue today, or I need to wear white next week, and I do everything I can to give you an opportunity to win a football game, and you can't wait to get out of the daggum tunnel to go tee off. So I just need to know what's going on, man. We're owed an explanation.
Vote today. Big day. Whichever way you sway, just make sure you get out there and tell your piece. And the way that you do that is to put your vote in. And hopefully, if you're watching, you're planning on doing that today. Look behind me, Brett. I got Lee Apparel behind me. I got Bo, my big Auburn buddy, back here printing away. If you need customized apparel, tees, screen printing, call on Lee Apparel. And we can do anything from the start of a signed project to the installation of a sign project with Sign Source here in Dadeville, Alabama. Some good news coming over in the Auburn market for us, so stay tuned into that. But appreciate all of you tuning in out there and all the comments. Brett, one thing I like about what we're doing, even with this, our shows are really heavily pushed by what comments come in. And,
Sure.
and we want to know what you want to talk about. So as we're doing these each and every morning, comment away. Let us know what you'd like to talk about.
Yeah, no doubt. We always appreciate everybody. And, like you said, go vote. It's the best right we have in this country. We can make a difference, and gives you an opportunity to make a difference. And prayers for our country after tonight on into the future. A lot at stake here today. And go do what you feel like's best, but also be observant and understand the consequences of what you do when you go to the ballot box. It has, you may think it's only one vote, but it's a lot bigger than that. So I will be on Auburn Blitz. You and I'll be on an Auburn Blitz at noon today. So we're looking forward to that. So make sure you tune us in at noon. All right, everybody have a great day.